All right, what's up guys? Welcome back to the channel. So if you guys are like us and you live a little bit remote, the house we have is about a few hundred yards back yonder, that way over there. So, you know, we want to be able to not get out of our car in the rain in the Pacific Northwest to open our gate. So we got this ghost gate here, and some of the items you guys are going to need to install this. You're going to need one cordless drill over there. You're going to need a clamp. You're going to need some type of sockets or a wrench. You're going to need some drill bits, a good level, and a screwdriver, as well as a tape measure. But you guys already know how to set post and all that. Just make sure everything's level when you guys do that, and the gate will work real smooth. You don't want to put a bunch of torque on the motor. So we're going to go ahead and get over there. We got all of our parts laid out, and we're going to start assembling this. All right, so you guys might want to do some pre-assembly. This ghost controller comes apart after you take the two screws out of the bottom of it right here. These little guys, it comes apart. It takes 2C batteries, and that's how you guys hook it up. But if you guys notice on this post mount, it's got big holes, which are going to be for your lags. And then it's going to got small holes, which are going to be for the little screws and nuts inside there, which you're going to need your little socket set for. So make sure you don't lose your screws and keep them on something when you're working on it. I'm going to go ahead and get this pre-assembled, and then I'll show you what it looks like after it's hooked up. Okay, I just want to show you guys the flush side of the screw goes on the inside, and the long threaded part comes out towards the back. Now we'll walk over to our post and we'll go ahead and mount it. So taking your tape measure, you're going to want to come up about 40 inches. That way it's not too high for people in sedans. You're going to make a mark over here so you know where to put it at. Using your your clamp, this will help you hold it in place. So just kind of center it to the 40-inch mark. You kind of want to be level at the top. Then taking your clamp, you can put your clamp on the side of it and get it good and tight, making sure it's straight and centered. Once you're comfortable with the way it's positioned, you can now take a pencil out and mark your holes, or you can just go ahead and go straight with a 3/16 drill bit and pre-drill the holes. Personally, I like to get that socket and that first one in, and that way you know that it ain't gonna move on you when you get going, like it just did with the clamp. But you can easily hit it with your drill and knock the clamp off out of position. Then you're trying to force to line them up again. So you kind of want to just do it like this right here. If you have an impact gun, which I have, it makes it easier, but we're just trying to use the tools out of the kit. So once you got it right about where you want it, make sure it's square again. Then I jump over to this side, make a hole with that 3/16 bit, and I sink the next one. Then I'll do the same thing in reverse order on the other two holes. So assuming you installed it correctly, the top half should have this little plate right here that you can see. And that's so when you go ahead and mount this inside, now you can put these two screws fasteners under the underside here. So I'm going to go ahead and get those installed, and then we'll move on to the next step. So you're going to need a 5/8 wrench and 11/16 socket. The two bars they give you with the adjuster holes that line up like this. The neoprene or vinyl or whatever it's made out of washer, and then the bolt with the two washers on the side. So to assemble this, you're going to leave one washer on. You're going to come through the center hole of the bracket, and then you got your two holes offset to this side. So this is the side you're going to use for your adjustments. Then you're going to put the washer in, the big white one. You're going to use the next one, and there's a rough side and a smooth side. Make sure the smooth side's facing the metal. It's kind of tight. You got to get it in there. Then you're going to get it through the other side. Now they should dangle like that. Get your other washer on it. Get your nut. That's a lock nut. Using your socket and your wrench. You're going to go ahead and tighten this up a little bit so they don't fall off, but don't get it too tight right now. You can tighten it down after you figure out its final adjustment. So the next thing you're going to want to do is find the center of the gate, and this would be the center rung, but they don't want you to go low. They want you to stay high. So find the center of about the third pull down, somewhere about right in here. That's where you're going to set your level, is to about that line. Make sure it extends past your post. So find your center line on this side, then don't move it, adjust this side. Once you know where it's at, make a mark over here on this post, like this. Then you can transfer that mark and making sure it's straight up and down using your level. You can transfer that mark all the way across, just like this. Now you have a level line. So you're going to want to make sure that this clamp is going long ways, so this can move like this horizontally, and that line represents the center of this bracket. So you're going to put it on this side and on this side. Find the center of the post, then take your clamp, get it centered, and it's real crucial that you have this centered. There went a Harley. Now that you got it centered, you're going to go ahead and put your level on top of it and make sure that it's level. So my side needs to come down a little bit. Let's go ahead and try that right there. So that's pretty centered and pretty level. So unlike the other post, on this one you're going to want to trace out the hole all the way around. Get a really good mark on it and do both on one side, just like this. Then you're going to have to take the bracket off using your drill. You're going to take a 3/8 and you're going to drill all the way through the post. So you want to make sure you have a bit long enough to do that. So the reason why I had you just drill these two holes first, and a pro tip, use the 3/8 bit instead of the bit they call for. It'll make it a lot tighter. With a nut driver, you can pre-drill your holes like this, using the bolt that it came with, and this will allow for a very snug fit and not allow this to slack over time. I'm going to pull these back out now and then go ahead and mount this on here, pre-drill both of these holes a little bit, and then take it back off, get all the way through, do the same thing, pre-driving one of these threaded bolts through each hole before I actually set it. So before you go to the other side and put your remaining 4 nuts and 4 screws on, 4 bolts on, or nuts and washers, excuse me, make sure it's still level. So that way it'll line up with the other side. We're going to go around to the back now and tighten it down using a 17 millimeter. So once you guys get this done and you get it really snug, you're about ready to go set the actual gate and the Technically though, you kind of want to do the solar powered panel first, but in a hex pattern, go through and make sure this is extremely snug. You want to bury your washers just so you know that it's fully tightened down on the other side as well and pulled through the thread line. If anything, we don't want no slack. Keep in mind, if you guys are doing a round post, this is for an actual square 6x6. If you're doing a round post, then you're going to want to have an adapter for the other side. That bracket we just put on, it comes with a round adapter. That sounds really good and tight to me. Feels really snug. Ain't going nowhere. Off to the next part. So with your gate being open at a 90, you can put a stake or whatever to hold it. That's the open position. We're going to come over here and adjust this bracket. This bracket calls for a 4-inch minimum. So that means that you need to be within 4 inches of this rail. So right here's at our 4 inches. We don't want to go that way, so we're going to have to go this way. So this is going to be our hole. I'm going to line them both up again. The first thing I'm going to do is try to get this white coupler in there, which is really tight to do. Let me try pulling on it here. Sorry, it's real tight. Once you get that thing about where it should be, you can start trying to walk the thread down it. You might need a screwdriver and to wedge it into place, because that sucker is really, really tight right now. Let me try loosening up this other bracket real fast. Oh, I need 2 wrenches. 1 second. Oh, that ain't it. There we go. See if that helps. Yep, sure did. Okay, now you're going to put a washer on the nut, on the bolt, I mean. Go through all the holes here. Put the next washer on the underside with the nut. Tighten it down and get it set. These shouldn't move, so I'm going to go ahead and tighten them down now. There we go, nice and snug and tight onto the actual controller. So before you guys actually try hanging this on there, you're gonna notice that your gate kit either came with a round pole gate for the actual cattle style gate. This is for a flat gate, wood or whatever, and you can bolt to it. What we need to do right now is actually get these mounted on here like this. So we're gonna hook up both of these on here like this. I'll go ahead and get it on there and show you guys what it looks like when it's done. The beauty of these things is they naturally sit because it's got a kerf in it. See that kerf? So you could get them to naturally sit in that kerf pretty simply. But you're gonna wanna make sure they're good and tight. They are locking nuts, so they shouldn't go nowhere. And then they'll get tighter once we get it all assembled on the gate. But that's basically what it's gonna look like. We're gonna walk over here. And with this kit, they should have gave you 2 more bolts like this. These are actually set holes. I know a lot of people trip out on that, but now the fun part is getting the sucker on there. You might have to bend them out. So just using a pair of channel lock or vice grips, I just put them on it, stood on one side and bent them open. Gonna slide that guy on there like that. Hopefully it don't fall on us. And then you're just going to repeat the same process. You always want your nuts facing down and a washer on both sides. And the smooth side facing the nut, the rough side facing the surface of what you're putting it on. Same with the back. I might have to squeeze them tight again if I can't get a nut on it. Let me get a pair of pliers. I'll plier them shut real fast and then we'll come back and I'll tighten them down. So you're just gonna want to snug it up, not get it too tight yet, because we're gonna have to adjust this. But you also want it to hold the weight. You also want it to hold the weight of the ghost gate before, you know, so it's not just flopping around. So now we're gonna take this ghost gate out. Should have came with 2 pins, a small one and a big one. The big one's gonna go towards the back. And the rubber washer that's on it's always gonna be facing up, just like this. We're gonna set it inside here. Run the pin through it. Then we're gonna come over to this side. Get our pin ready for this side. Probably gonna have to loosen this up a little bit because it won't move. Okay, now that we got some play in it, I'm gonna come over here. Now you can go ahead and put your Carter keys back in, like this. I'm gonna shove it through the hole, leave it. I'm gonna come to this one, shove it through the hole, and leave it. Now, before we tighten this down, we're gonna get it adjusted out. We're gonna get our box set, panel, then we'll go through and adjust them all. So before you guys actually mount this box, you're gonna wanna take a 3/16 bit or close to it and pre-drill 4 holes through the actual plastic backing. So that way your screws that you're gonna put in this don't actually fight with it. And when you're doing this, be real careful of all the wiring in here. Absolutely try not to hit these wires. You want to be very, very careful when you're drilling through this. You have to go slow, go slow. Take your time. You don't want to damage this stuff. You got one more over here. Okay. Get all the plastic out. That way it doesn't short nothing or anything like that. It should have came with 4 Phillips screws. So now you're going to change your drill bit out. You're going to want to go for the 1/8 drill bit. And just like everything else, you're going to set this up here in this corner, far enough away from the metal bracket that it doesn't affect nothing, but to where it's nice and hidden. And you're gonna go ahead and pre-drill 1 little hole over here like this. Pull it away. Once you got the hole drilled, get your Phillips on, make sure it's a nice extended. That way you can pull the cover over, put the tip in without damaging nothing. Now you can set this up here where you've just drilled your hole. You can see the hole through it. Get your screw in the hole and real slowly drill it down. That way it doesn't damage nothing. Make sure your box is nice and level where you want it. Go back to your 1/8 drill bit. Start a couple of starter holes. Try not to get too many shavings in there. Be very careful of the wires. Now back to the Phillips. Take your remaining 3 screws and very, very carefully screw them down, watching them the whole time. That way you don't hit nothing. Already that's tighter than it ever will need to be. But you just want to be very careful not to hit any of those wires. If you have to go really slow, go really slow. Make sure that the wires are pulled away from it. Oh, dropped it. Let me go retrieve that. Now you're fully secured and mounted. Won't go nowhere. So you guys should have got a pole. Looks like this. You should have got 4 pole brackets, 4 lags that actually mount to the post, and then 4 bolts with actual nuts. And that's how you're going to attach this on here. So basically the way this is going to go, make sure your cable stays clear. Put something down so you don't scratch your solar power panel. You're going to set this on here like this, right to the rubber stop. That's going to sit on that one. Then you're going to take the next one, set it on here like this. So using the 7/16, you're just going to put the nut in your finger like that. You got to get it up underneath the backside and get it to actually grab, which is a complete nightmare. You know what? We're going to go the other way around. We're going to go like this and like this. And it should make life a whole lot easier on us. The directions call for them to go the other way, but I'm not digging it. So you want to be really careful not to scratch or bend this thing up. So take your time. I'm going to go ahead and get these 4 on here using the socket and the wrench, just by putting the wrench up underneath. If it even fits, it doesn't, so we'll have to use this side. And then just tightening them down. Make sure they're good and snug so it doesn't move, and you can still adjust it just like that depending on how you're going to hang it, which we're probably going to hang it like this right here. So we'll see how we have to adjust it once we get it up there, but I'm going to go ahead and put the last 2 screws in, get it mounted, and we'll move on from there. So pretty much the easiest way to do this, especially if you're by yourself, is find center of the pole, come down about 1 inch, pre-drill a hole with a drill bit smaller than the diameter of your actual screw. This one's a 3/32, and get the hole started. Then take your impact gun. Take your impact gun with that 7/16 socket, and let it dangle up here. Get it a little tighter. You want to be able to get it open up enough to where you could get that actual pole right up underneath of it like this. But for now, we're just going to use that as our guide. We're going to come over here and drill this other hole. So now with your solar powered in one hand, power panel in one hand with the post, and I like to set the thread screw in it, rest that in between my legs, come up here, bend it over the pole, hold it in position like this with your finger, get my drill gun, now you can sink them until it's holding it up for you. And I got to go get a new battery. This one's dead, but we're going to just repeat the process with the next one. This is on a kerf because it needs to be pushed up a little higher, which I'll go get a battery, loosen it up, adjust it, and set the next one. Okay, there it is. So you want your panel facing south. South's right over here. So this is the way the sun goes the most, so hopefully this gets him the most action for his buck. I'm going to leave it just like this, slightly angled, Now I'll tighten these down really good, and then we'll move on to the battery box and we'll consider this done. So once you guys open up the battery box, it's going to come with a couple of these MPP batteries. They're 12 hour, 7 amp, or 12 volt, 7 amp hours. So I guess RV deep cell batteries work the best for these systems, but that's not what they give you. Using your drill bit that you used for the last box, I think it was a 9/16. You're going to go ahead and re-drill these holes same way you did in the controller box, but you're going to do it for the battery box. They give you mounting screws that are Phillips, so we're going to go back over here to our post and go ahead and get it set up and mounted right now. Same way as before, you're going to go ahead and put your box up here like that. You're going to pre-drill the first hole. Move over to your Phillips tip. Get out a screw. Sleeve it. Oh, dropped it. Sleeve your screw. Hold it in place to your hole. Set it. Make sure it looks good and level and not crooked. Then go ahead and repeat the process on the next hole. Get it started. Sleeve a bit or sleeve a screw. Get it in the hole and sink it. Make sure you get all the dust out of your box before you put it back together. I'm going to go ahead and set these last screws and we'll be done. You're going to want to remove this plug off of the left side with this wing nut. It comes off. It's also got a cap on it. You're going to come down here. You're going to make sure that your battery and your solar powered wire are free of obstructions, and you're going to run them through the cap first. Then you're going to go one at a time, taking the blue part, get it through, get the next one through, then get your wires through, and you're going to shove it through there really tight like this. See how it looks? The cap's going to be down here loose. You're going to put these through. You don't need to pull it all the slack yet, but you're just going to go like so. Get this up in there. And try to get the stupid little nut back on there. Oh, sorry, it's bouncing. There it goes. Then you're going to snug that up really nice and tight so it doesn't move and water can't get in it. Now you're going to come over here and dress in your line, making sure that you have enough slack in the actual line for what you need. Looks like the rubber sleeve came out of the center of this thing. You'll tuck this rubber piece in after you're done, but our main concern is getting all of this slack out where we're going to run it. So I'm going to pull all this slack and not pull the battery one. This is from the solar power panel. Now I'm going to leave it about like that, and I'm going to come over here using Romex staples or whatever you got to tag this down. You're going to come in here and tag it really nice and clean until you get a nice loop over here like this. So that's what I'm going to do next, and we'll move on. So as you can see, I got my Romex staples running, and leave them loose. Do not crimp the wire, whatever you do. You know, make sure you got slack on them to where that way if somebody had to come in behind you, you cannot cut the controller wire. So do not cut the controller wire. But the controller wire needs slack in it as well, and it runs through here with the battery line, but it's going to go to the right side. So I already got my plug off. So you're going to put your cap on first. You're going to go through, being very careful with the soldered ends, not to mess it up. Don't worry about tightening that down. Just get it up through the hole. Then put your nut back on it and get your nut tightened down first. And then you're good to go. So it's gonna go, you know, white, green, black, red. Fortunately, Ghost Controllers gave us a pretty cool screwdriver. So we could go ahead and hook these up. You're gonna wanna make sure that they're loose ahead of time. And then it's gonna go right in this little hole right here like that. And then you're just gonna tighten it down until it's snug. Once you know that you got about this much slack in it, go ahead and tighten down your cap so it doesn't move. This will help lock it into place. See, now you can't pull on it, it's solid. Just make sure it's really tight. Then we're gonna go over here to green. Making sure it's loose first, enough to fit in there. Tightening it all the way down again till it's snug and you know it ain't gonna come out. Then we're gonna go with our black wire. And then red. Now you see how this is here? We have tons of slack. You could go ahead and loosen your nut up on it. Keep this tight, bend some more up in here just so it got a little bit of play and it's not gonna be so tight on those wires. You want slack everywhere. There we go, that's good. So now we got our controller side done. We're gonna go ahead and move on over to our battery and solar power panel side. So before you start, you wanna make sure that your battery box is empty and you don't have the batteries actually hooked up yet. You're just gonna come over here, you're gonna tuck this around the corner of this board. Around the back side, you should have enough slack in here. Red goes to red. Make sure they're snug and tight and that they're past the blue line. So that way there's no possibility of them shorting out on anything in the box. Then you're gonna tuck that over there and they're gonna sit just like that back in the corner. Now for this slack here, because you have so much extra, you could technically cut this back to whatever size you want because these are gonna mount right here. So using your electrical cutters, you're basically gonna come over here, figure out how to put yourself a nice loop in this box like this. Something about like that, somewhere where you can run up some of this extra so that way it's in the box and not gone. And then we can cut it and hook it up just like so. And it's gonna go right here. Red is gonna go to the positive and black's gonna go to the negative. So let me go ahead and get this cut and stripped and then we'll move on. So if you guys cut these the same length, it'll make it a whole lot easier to do this. And remember, black goes on the left, red's on the right, red's your positive and black's your negative. Oops, there it goes. Okay, so now we're snugged in, everything's done here. We can go ahead and put our lid back on the controller box like this. And that's done. This is your antenna. Kind of leave it off to the side. There's an on and off switch here. We're gonna make sure it's in the off position still, and then we'll turn it on after we hook up the batteries. So you get first battery, you're gonna pull off your caps. It's gonna sit in here like this. Get your second battery, pull off its caps. It's gonna sit in here like this. I'll lose the bags. You should have 2 sets on this red cable right here. This one will get wrapped up with a zip tie. So you should have 2 sets. This one's for the bottom, this one's for the top. So I just lean it out to the side, make sure that red goes on red. Till it's fully clicked and locked on. Then black's on black, till it's fully clicked and locked on. Then make sure that the wires tuck in here really nice. Then these wires are going to come back over to the side. Oh, get them over to the other side. Just like that. That's going to tuck in there. You want everything nice and neat so you know it ain't going to short out. Same thing goes for the top, red to red, black to black. Now your battery pack is done. You can go ahead and tuck these in so they're nice and neat. And then slide your cover over the top, being careful not to skid your wires in there. Now we're fully tagged in. They should have gave you guys some zip ties, some black zip ties like this. You're going to take this cable over here and you're going to round it up just like that. Get some of the slack out of it. You're going to put one zip tie over here. Like this. And the second zip tie is going to go on this side like this. Try to make them look nice and neat. Then using a pair of snippers, you can come in here and cut these off. All right, now that you guys got the gate all set up, you can go ahead and test it with your key fob that they gave you. Making sure it doesn't hit the ground anywhere still. Got nice coverage. And there it is, it stopped. Now, inside of this box over here, these are your jog and set limiters. You only have one set limiter. This is a pull to open, not a push to, a push to close and a pull to open. So when you set this, you want to make sure that you set this bracket all the way in its fully closed position. So you hook it up, mount it down where it's fully closed. Then when you go ahead and hit the button, you can go right here to where it says extended limit settings. You could hit this jog close and the gate should start to close like this by holding the button down on jog. And the only parameter you have to set now is the stop, where you want it to be fully closed. So we'll go a little bit more right there. That's where you want it. Then you're going to come over here and hit this set limit until it beeps. Now you know you're good. Then you're done. All you got to do is put your cover back on, throw your zip tie on, come back here and test it one more time. We'll hit open. Make sure it fully opens. And now it's open. Now we'll push close. And we'll follow along over here with this gate. And we want to make sure that it's going to line up with this post right here. Perfect, look at that. Now you could either use the chain they give you over here, and you just put the chain around it like this. Oops, I dropped it. And you just put the chain on it like this. to lock it, or they sell an actual ghost gate control lock. They also sell a bar strip that goes from this box right here to about right in here, where you could put a sensor that will automatically shut the gate. But if you look on the inside of this right here, it actually has a learn button as well as a set auto close time, so you can actually program it to automatically close. So that's pretty much it for your ghost gate. There it is. We got our controller panel, our battery box, our hydraulic arm, our solar power panel, and we got our control box over there that controls the actual gate. They all need to be programmed now, and that's something separate, which you guys could go through the catalog and figure out on your own. But there it is. Thanks for joining me. We'll catch you guys on the next one. Have a great weekend.